3 p.m. A couple things here. So, we do have. I didn't know how you guys did it last time. I wasn't here. I don't.
We did everything wrong. No.
Right. No. Meaning relative to the Zoom. So we used to have to read something. Do we have to read that still, David?
No, we don't have to because
Okay.
everybody's here.
We're still here. So okay. So please be advised that we are being broadcast live, digitally recorded, and on Zoom. So I think that probably suffice. So we'll start with open session. Anybody here for open session? No. Let's move on. So announcements.
Announcements. We have frozen assets. Right now, up until the deadline is February 1st, you can go to either Giacomo's, the Hubtown Diner, the Pizza Palace, the Country Trail, or Prue Family Financial, and grab a form, sit down, have a cup of coffee, get some cookies, whatever, shop. But fill out, you can, a frozen assets form, you can pick 5 different guesses of when the outhouse will fall through the ice. Now, the outhouse will not go onto the ice until the beginning of February. Right now, I'm currently rebuilding said outhouse because it did not survive last winter, and I have the lovely task of recreating that.
It's gonna go in the same place.
Yep, same place, 5 Williamsville Road on the little pond that's located at Country Hen. But it will be in the beginning of February, probably that first week. That's when we usually try to get it on. The Country Hen is kind enough to help me with that. So take your guesses for after that first week. You have 5 guesses. We do ask for a $20 donation per form, but if you don't have $20 or you'd rather donate more or less, I'll take 10, I'll take 50, whatever, hand it in for free. It is meant as a fundraiser, but realistically it's more meant to get people into our stores in the worst time of the year where they have the least amount of shoppers in any of the stores, the hardest month of the year for most stores. So that's why the location to pick up the forms is in those stores. So again, go have a cup of coffee at the diner, go pick up your pizza, whatever, fill out the form, hand it in, they'll gladly take it. Feel free to put the donation in with it. All the money goes to special events, and Frozen Assets Outhouse will be out there come February, and we'll all just watch it. And that's our fun things to do in the wintertime in New England.
Alright. Sounds good, thank you.
Just one note on that, the diner is closed all this week.
Yes, yeah, well, up till I think like Thursday.
No, they're closed for the whole week. through
Yeah, Friday then, yeah, Friday. But they'll be open on the weekend, so, but yeah.
Okay.
Go next door to Giacomo's.
Okay, thank you. So next item is minutes and consent agenda. We just have one item, which is the minutes of November 15th. I guess we'll take them one at a time. The first item is minutes, the approval of minutes, November 15th, 2021. Is there a hold? Seeing none? Okay.
Make a motion for unanimous consent of the approval of the select board meeting of November 15th, 2021.
I will second that.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none? All in favor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Aye.
Yes. Unanimous. Thank you. The next, we've got a number of planning board items here, and we've got Alice, representing the planning board, correct?
Yep. Ready to go?
Sounds good. So, we have an order on our agenda here. It doesn't really matter to us what order we go in. Depends on I guess what do you want to do. But the way we have it is zoning bylaws update, farm accessory bylaw, committee formation, and then a few other affordable housing fundraising for Agate Hill. So we've got a few items on there. Would you like to go in order, or what do you think?
You know, I did my own little list, it has all those things on it, and it'll be faster if I zip through it.
That's why I asked.
I think,
That's
if
why
you
I
don't
asked.
mind.
Go right ahead.
Two things first, we're meeting on the 7th with you guys, right? 7th for the, enforcement issue, is it still on? February 7th?
February 7th?
And the other thing I wanted to tell everybody is MJTC, you know, I'm that
Yeah.
liaison person.
Yeah.
And they're doing a new round of shared spaces, you know, the COVID stuff. So, I know you've got ARPA and other things, but,
Okay.
and also they're beginning to look for new ideas for the tip about 3 years out.
Okay.
So if you know culverts or intersections or things that need work,
Yep.
you can just let me know or let them know.
Okay, did you just have a meeting?
We just had a meeting.
We did.
Yeah, we meet, I don't make it to all of them, but I did make it to that
Are
one.
they remote?
They're remote, yeah.
So Alice, when you say the 7th, that's meeting with jointly with the select board, right?
Is that right? Yeah, for that
Yeah.
meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, I just gotta get it posted for the meeting. Okay, so, quick rundown, I do think it'll cover everything and you can just say, skip it, if it's
Sounds
something
good.
you don't wanna hear about. So the warrant articles for the annual town meeting, we plan to have 3 of them. 2 of them you have drafts of, and one of them's the battery energy storage. So the first is the rate of development bylaw, big problems there because, have you read the AG's opinion that came out?
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, have you guys
I-
looked at that?
Okay, so, I mean, I can stop and tell you about it. It basically, their argument was, let's see.
It doesn't apply anymore, is basically what they
Yeah,
said.
basically they said, you have to have an urgent need to impose one. So we passed our bylaw in 2001.
With
This
an urgent
case-
need.
Yes, but the urgent need case that like really
Yeah.
was 2004.
Yeah.
So I don't actually know how it got passed in the meantime, except that now housing is on the agenda of the state because it's in such short supply.
Okay.
But anyway, you'd have to have something like your sewer's over capacity, your schools are over capacity, and we just don't have it. So and all I did, I spent hours rewriting it because I thought it was not well written and it was confusing. But I didn't change that much, you know, I mean, I still kept the cap, I still kept so it's gone. So I think we should pull it from the warrant.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so that's done. Sad, I spent a lot of time on it, but it is what it is. You
Alright.
can't do things that aren't constitutional. So, the next bylaw is the accessory dwelling unit, which will replace the present in-law apartment and accessory apartment.
Yep.
Which are pretty much just definitions.
It really is.
They really are, so I'll talk a little bit about that. I'm gonna go through my list though.
Sounds good.
The last one is battery energy storage, which we're working on, and I'll go through a little bit about that later. And then in addition, there are other new bylaws and bylaw revisions that are under consideration and process, but they're not gonna be ready in time. They're just not, and they are, one, the large scale, solar photovoltaic installations, solar fields bylaw, really needs revising. It's from 2010, and we actually got
It is? From 2010?
Yeah. Well, that's when the state model is, and it took the state model,
Okay.
so you may have passed it a little bit later. But we got a technical assistance grant through the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs and MRPC. And I think this is really important we do this because, for example, you can clear cut right now to put a solar field in, there's all kinds of things we can fix. And we basically have a draft that kinda does that we can work from, but we were able to get this grant and it'd be nice to have the technical help. So, and I did hear today that they've just opened the long-awaited round for new funding for solar systems, which has pretty much frozen all action on them in the last 2 or 3 years. So I think this is gonna be a big thing and I'm gonna try to get to it. And we do have the grant that was actually granted in late May, so I'm hoping maybe fall meeting. Marijuana bylaw, you know, we put a few Band-Aids on it, but it really needs a lot of fixing and actually, Christopher's working on that. The Town Center Overlay District, it's an effort being led by the EDC with a grant from MRPC and the Agricultural Use Bylaw. And we met jointly with the EDC on Wednesday to try to talk about those things. They've been in process for a long time and they're still in process. They're not on ink on paper stage yet, but we're studying other models and we're having some help from MRPC on that. And then the other thing is the final chapter of the master plan, which is the implementation chapter, which is really important because all the units strings are pulled together and you make a plan to implement it. So we had sort of talked about trying to focus on the town center overlay district and the agricultural use bylaw along with the implementation plans because they're both sort of highlighted things we should consider.
And we
And-
have financial assistance with those too?
Yes.
Yep.
The implementation plan we have a grant for, and we don't have any help with the agricultural use bylaw.
Okay.
But Christopher's been working on it. The problem is that, you know, you look at all the communities and you try to find one that's the closest and make it fit, but there are not very many models out there and they're pretty far off. So, you know, we might have to a great extent reinvent the wheel on that one. So anyway, that's what's in the works. On the 3 warrant articles, we just talked about why we can't do the first one. On the second one, the accessory dwelling unit bylaw, which replaces the 2 existing the in-law apartment bylaw as it presently written requires the occupant must be related. And the accessory bylaw, accessory apartment you can't add to an existing house unless it's been there at least 5 years. And also there's no like guidance for these units. So have you had a chance to read it, anybody?
Which one, the accessory?
The accessory?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what we did was we made it accessory dwelling unit to distinguish it from apartments. We put limits 1,000 square feet, no more than 2 bedrooms, no more than 4 people. Has to be the owner of the occupied, either the owner of the single family occupied residence or the accessory dwelling unit has to reside in one or the other 5 months a year. So if a older couple wanted to turn their house over to their kids and build on an accessory unit and go to Florida in the winter, they could, you know, and still own the house. They could do that. What we're trying to prevent is from both sides being rented out all year long and it becoming a rental property, right? It's been used in other models we looked at. We put in some.
I was gonna say for like 12 people too. You could, you know, so you put the limit of people on.
4, yeah, 400,000 feet, and we talked about a lot of percentage-wise, other things. I tried to keep it really readable, you know, and a clear-cut provision. So we thought that made sense. It has to maintain the appearance of a single-family resident. You can't just have a breezeway that connects them. It's got to have a adjoining wall. Exterior stairways have to be in the side or in the back if it's a second floor accessory dwelling unit. You can't put in a second driveway, and you have to have at least two additional parking spaces. So basically, those are what we put in. The two issues that were most contentious were we had originally had the lease, if they're going to lease it, must be 30 days, and we got a lot of pushback from EDC, from my friend Katie over there.
I think Whitney pushed back harder on that one.
The issue is, do you want them to be available for Airbnb rentals? And the EDC says, and you can see their point, we're trying to be a come-to place, and it'd be nice to be able to rent. And it'd be nice also for people to be able to make some money that way that maybe don't wanna have an occupant all year long. So we have taken it out. I don't know whether it will make it more likely to pass or less likely to pass at town meeting, but we made that decision, that we would take it out. And the other one was parking, because you don't want cars in the front yard, but some front yards are like the house is on the back lot line and it's 1,000-foot front yard, right, in town. So we said no parking, we changed it to be no parking in the front setback. Okay, so that's how we got around that. So, you know, we'd like your support on it. We think we did well on that one, and it should go. It does worry me a little, I have a question for David, is like these, when you pull threads, you know, it has some like the use tables. Now it says, you know, accessory and in-law. Do those all have to be voted when you change it?
Yes.
Delete, it has to be everything?
Yeah.
Okay, then I'm gonna have to, I have the major provisions, the 2 definitions deleted, but I haven't carried it through so I've got a little more work on that.
Alright, we probably can handle that in just a short narrative.
Yeah, and I'm not most of it done, I just need to read through it. It's the use section.
Yeah.
And you have to actually add it and subtract it, right? Cause you have to add in-law apartment and subtract it. Anyway. So that's the one thing I wanted to flag on that one. The best bylaw, has been on the table for a long time. We've got one leader on our planning board who actually is in this field and knows about it and has been kind of the leader on it. And it does exist in draft. It's called battery energy storage units. And these are units that store power generated either by solar fields or by the grid itself, or, and they store it until
or wind.
off-peak hours, and
Or
then they.
wind, right? Or wind.
We haven't done it for wind, this doesn't apply to wind, maybe it should.
We did. We built storage foundations for. So we do the site work. We don't actually put the, but we built some of the foundations to handle these because they're extremely heavy when whatever.
Yeah.
For wind.
And are they in?
Mm-hmm. Did it a couple of years ago.
So there was just no bylaw and it just got
Worcester.
permitted?
No
Well,
idea.
they're not in this bylaw.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's not gonna affect it, but the problem is, where do you draw the line on these energy things?
Yeah.
But these energy, the reason this came to the attention of the planning board was because we had a solar field in town that wanted to add energy storage units.
Yeah.
And they wanted to do it as a, it said accessory building, but it wasn't clear that that's what accessory building meant. So they put these units in, we let them go, we amended their permit, we let them put it in. Very valuable, it almost doubles the capacity of the output from a solar field, cause it generates that energy is stored all day into the lines all night, right? So it's extremely valuable, but these units have an explosive risk, they're big, they're like big issues, that need to be resolved, right? So, the bylaw we're working on is anything over 600 kilowatt hours, but we don't have an upside limit, we need an upside limit. And we need setbacks, and so we're working on the nitty gritty of the zoning, but what we have figured, it would only be in commercial, it would only be where, what's it called, three-tier energy, what's it called?
Three-phase. Three-phase.
Three-phase is available, because that's the only way it makes sense, and I have a three-phase map you can look at, so it's gotta be, which maybe you know. I can get it on here right now. Here, you could pass this around, you can see Hubbardston on the dotted lines, the tangle in the corner is the next town, but you can see the roads. And it would also have to be in commercial, so it's actually a fairly small footprint. But we've kicked back and forth, do we want an overlay zone, or do we wanna just say it has to have these two criteria? And then put that map in as, the criteria it has, so it would have to be in commercial and have to
What
have
happens-
access to those lines.
What happens if the commercial zone gets expanded?
Then
And
it
it
would,
gets
it
bigger.
would be expanded with it.
Yeah, that's what I mean, so.
But it's still only these lines.
True,
But you could expand the lines too.
that's what I'm saying, so.
Right, so we have issues we're working through,
Yeah.
and we're welcome, we have not had the public hearing on either of these. The public hearing on the one that got shut down by the AG was last week.
Yeah.
And this one's coming up on the, we're bumping our meeting out to the fourth meeting in February because Mallory's daughter's gonna keep her busy that third week, so anyway, if you're welcome, and Bess, we haven't scheduled for a public hearing, but it is our goal to get those done.
I listened, I was on that meeting listening, and
Oh, somebody told me you were, yeah.
the whole, cause I listen to all the meetings, whether it's in person or after the fact, cause apparently I have no life. And, so where you're saying you need a cap for the battery storage, I'd be wary of that, cause technology is changing, I agree with the others, it's changing so rapidly, you put a cap on this, you're gonna have to go back and fix it.
But if you don't put a cap on, to the solar fields on Williamsville, you can go up and look at, well, you can't. 'cause
Well, no, it's too
not,
far
you can't
back,
get in
yeah.
it, well, and it's restricted access.
Yeah.
So these can quickly become
I understand,
like
that's why I would go with.
substations that you wouldn't
I
want in a neighborhood, you
I
wouldn't.
know, but you just,
It's,
everything's changing, stuff's getting smaller and more potent, and we'll be able to hold more of that. I think if you cap things in this kinda field, I worry that it's gonna make it, we're gonna have to go fix it, cause it's gonna be outdated
well, you might
super
have
quick.
to,
Yeah.
you might have to fix it, or you might say X number of kilowatts for this size lot, and then for the next size.
Yeah, and go by that
I mean,
kind of cap.
in a way, there is so little commercial land in this town.
But that has changed a few times over the years, so, and it could always change again.
Well, it would, where it says list of allowed uses, right, whenever you do that, you're gonna have to look at it. But, yeah, I don't know enough about it to know, I do know that the the set they put in the solar fields was like the size of 6 semi-trailers, basically. I mean, they are big.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want your neighbor to, you know, on a 2-acre lot to put in
No, on a 2-acre
installation,
lot,
anything
not,
like that.
but
So you're gonna have to,
on the big lots.
we'll
I
be
know,
back.
I know, it's one of those hard,
But it's hard, and I don't think the way it was written, which is technically pretty good, incorporates enough of the zoning concerns, which is why we're working on it. Okay, what else do I have to say?
committee.
Yes. I need to, okay, so those are the zoning issues, and then I wanna talk about affordable housing. You've got zoning issues?
Yep.
Ooh, I'm sorry, what? I was
Any
looking
zoning
at the map.
issues for you guys?
No.
Anything? Okay, so affordable housing, affordable housing committee, as you know, is working on like 3 initiatives. One of which is the Habitat House at 105 Ragged Hill Road. The second is a feasibility study for the use of the Pitcherville Road former town gravel pit as subsidized senior housing, which VHB is doing that study with CPC money appropriated in 2016. And the environmental cleanup's continuing, right? The town's doing that part of it and we're not part of it.
I mean, we've filed what we need to file and we're contemplating the way forward.
Okay, so,
We have to do it, right?
Yeah.
Because of the
Yeah.
issue.
well, that was known that if we triggered
submitted
this
it
would
to the
happen,
capital
right?
plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
But
just
I don't know where the
couldn't afford it yet.
subsidized, I don't know where the feasibility study stands. So I need to talk to
The-
John about that, I
Okay.
guess.
So,
But if you're not, it isn't something that's gonna affect us this town meeting or anything.
No.
So, I just sort of up to date. And the 2 tax title, remember we put CPC money into tax title land court cases? Anyway, there are 2 cases working their way through land court. One of the targeted properties was redeemed before they actually filed. So I don't know where they stand. I know that the one guy's trying to sell his lot. So I fully expect that they'll both be redeemed and nothing will come of it, but we will see what happens.
Okay.
So on the affordable housing, the local project committee, you know, I don't know, I don't remember the terms of the contract that the town signed with Habitat with this, but there was a local share that was to be raised. And it was all somewhat, up to us to define. So we initially sought, set the goals of the local project committee would try to raise 35,000 and we get 20 from CPC. So we had the ribbon cutting, you guys were there, that is what's called the groundbreaking, on October 9th. And this house has to be done, the families, it's undergone the selection committee, they're gonna be moving in the 1st of June. So it has just been a horrible time to raise funds. And there's no way that this local committee's gonna be able to raise the 35,000. We've raised about something under 5. We have some things planned, one thing we'd like to do is have a 5K run, organized like the library does with the help of the police and the fire and so forth in early May, mid-May. But even if we did that, they generated about 3,500 for that. The local Habitat office does have business partners that'll match funds, so we're trying to get some matching going. The Lions Club gave us $500 the other day. It's a scramble, but I'm just telling you, they're gonna go back to CPC again for some more funding, and they're gonna try to put an application in for ARPA. Because we have from October, things got shut down by Thanksgiving, right? And they're still kinda shut down for any kind of in-person fundraising, so
Why
it's
don't
just
you-
been difficult.
Why don't you tap into, the committee that just raised how much money in a record amount of time?
the
Oh,
For the vets?
the Veterans
Yeah,
Committee,
you need to hit deep pockets. You guys aren't hitting deep pockets.
that was yeah, I'm not the chair of that.
I'm just saying, you're not hitting
But,
deep pockets.
that wouldn't, people have their own pet things, I think Vietnam was really close to a lot of
True,
people's hearts,
But they hit deep pockets.
but we're
you-
we're working on it.
I got the letter, cause I'm a business owner, no offense, no, that's not even in my realm of that letter for asking for money.
For what? What do you?
So, they sent out letters for the businesses.
Who's they?
The local project committee.
The local project
Yep,
committee.
okay.
Yeah,
Habitat. Okay, you're beyond
Uh,
Vietnam. Yep.
yeah, sorry,
Okay,
not
no,
the
just making
Vietnam
sure I'm
committee,
clear,
no,
yeah.
no. And what they offered, that has no value to most of the businesses in town. It's stuff that either just, it wasn't thought out. And I'm not trying to throw anybody on the bus, cause I know you all are trying, you're all a volunteer committee, just like the rest of us, I get it. But, give it, like, the first one was to, social media stuff that, like, one of them was for me to post, nobody even talked to me about it. I was kind of pissed off about that, but that's a whole secondary thing. And then they got a couple postings, and then they got a sticker for their window. Well, the businesses in town don't even have windows for window fronts, so that's like totally useless. You know what I mean? Like, most of the businesses are, like, you're dealing with businesses, people work out of their houses, and most people don't even know what the businesses are in this town, the cottage industry that we have a ridiculous amount of businesses. So, and what they do isn't what the townspeople would normally think of a business, like, would be useless, useful to them. So, it's just, it was all just wrong, like, just, it didn't, and that's part of the problem with the fundraising.
Well, what was
know,
gonna
it's-
be right though? I don't know that there is a right.
no, there
so
is
it's,
no-
It's an attempt. It's
True,
like,
they were attempting to hit up the businesses in town, I just don't think that it was the right incentives for the businesses for what they were asking for. You know what I mean? Like, the incentives weren't there for the businesses,
I
they didn't
get
get
it.
anything really out of it, other than, they felt better about their businesses or tax write-off. That was,
Do you
that
think
was
they
it.
would respond to a match, a dollar for dollar match?
You gotta.
Cause we did go to, I mean, I wasn't really that much part of it, but we did go to, like, the list of businesses in town,
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
EDC and businesses.
Yeah.
But
You
we
went-
do, Habitat does have some bigger donors that do match.
Yeah.
So we thought we would try again with a match.
I would go after the big businesses that have deep pockets, like the veterans that, you start tapping into Ed Blanchard's and Bill Shea's crews, you can get some money real quick.
Okay, I may call you and talk to you about it, if you have a minute.
Yeah,
Some
I always
point.
have a minute for you, Alice.
so what happens if the money's not, isn't
Well, I
raised?
think, so we've, she's gonna talk to CPC again.
I heard that.
And CPC,
I'm hopeful.
in these
But-
other towns,
Okay.
have contributed quite a bit more than the 20,000. Cause the land, some of them do all the materials, it's all materials, the labor's all donated. Some of them give the land plus they give the materials, or a bigger share, so I don't think it's out of the question. My personal pet peeve is that until we got to this project, every dollar CPC's ever spent on affordable housing has never involved bricks or mortar. It's been a study to get tax title land, it's been a study to put the housing production thing together. So this to me has a lot more appeal, and I think there were good intentions, and other towns have raised the 35,000, but you can't do things like, the auction thing was a big thing we were gonna do, and we just haven't been able to do it. An in-person auction, a wine tasting with the baskets and
Sure.
it's just one thing after another, and we don't have the summer to work with, it's gotta be done. But also, at least Christopher thought, he was on the ARPA committee, that we could apply for ARPA funds, and we wouldn't double dip, we'd apply to CPC, and then if we can get ARPA funds, we'd, and we still have hopes that we can maybe raise 10.
Yep.
Cause we're sorta halfway there, and if we do the run, it might push it over, but it is a problem, and they have,
So
I
Alice,
think-
you hope to raise 10, but you signed up for 35?
35 was back in October when we thought we could do all this. I think most of us felt in October that we were out of the woods with the COVID stuff, and we would be able to do, a lot of these things. Anyway, I don't know, I wanna tell the public, to the extent that people listen to this, you know, that this is not a lottery or a giveaway house. I mean, people have odd notions about what Habitat does. So the family has to income qualify, they have to make a down payment, they have to pay a 30 to 40-year mortgage scaled to their needs. They have to put in 200 to 350 hours of labor on the house. And then this house pays taxes like any other house. The only difference between this and any other house is that there's a deed restriction that when the people that buy it go to sell it, it has to sell at the affordable housing formula rate. So, cause I have, actually, I think a lot of people really don't understand that in town, so I appreciate the chance to tell the town that. Anyway, that's where we are in the planning board. So, thanks for listening, and any other questions?
No, you guys are busy. You've been busy for several years now, it feels like, so, you know, thanks for the update. I still wanna make sure I'm clear, and we're clear on what do you, through all of the things that you stated there, in a sort of an immediacy, is the reason for the question. What do you need from us for help? Now, I know we just talked about that, but regarding the bylaws you talked about, or whatever else, besides sort of notifying everyone and keeping everyone up to speed like what you just did, is there anything you need us to do?
You know, support the accessory dwelling unit unless you don't, if you really think we need that rental clause, then let me know now. Don't make it, I don't wanna split votes in the town hall floor. And I really would appreciate any help you can give us, the Affordable Housing Committee, because that house they've really worked at, you know, it's mostly been from the Volk School kids that come and built it week after week.
I know, I live right down the street, I see them driving by.
Well, so can I state this? I want to restate the question I just did. What happens if we don't get the?
It's a major problem because they're, you know, the regions are autonomous basically.
Yeah.
And they don't have other resources to really go to. I mean, they try to work it out. Generally, it gets passed on to other projects, or other projects get delayed, or
It would
you know.
deplete Habitat funds,
And
is basically what would happen, correct?
right, and you're not gonna get them to work again in this town.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's a commitment, and I think it was, I said to her back in the day, I mean, 20,000 was kind of a number we just picked, because they were hesitant to ask for a lot of money. It was a first project, so I always knew they might come back in the end, but I said, we'll see if we can raise it, and other towns had done it, including Athol and Ashburnham, and, you know, towns that aren't that much more better off than we are, right? But they didn't have this complete shutdown and they had, you know, they had other projects, and they had more connections, and we're just struggling,
So
that's all.
Alice, you said that
Okay.
the date tentatively is June 1st.
Sometime in June.
Now, to follow on Dan's question, should we not get the money, et cetera, what happens to the family?
The family moves in, they've made a commitment. And, you know, nobody's gonna donate money to a house that's already inhabited, right? So, it's a big problem for the local office, you know, and they expanded their territory to take us in. So I feel a big sense of responsibility to try to get this done for them.
So
they've-
regardless, I'm sorry, but regardless of the money,
The family,
the family
family
is
was
going
in
to
that
be
set of
there,
commitment.
so,
and they have raised over $97,000 for this project, Habitat, through its grant fund, so they were only looking for this piece of it. You know, the difference between, their goal was 117,000 they would raise, and ours was gonna be the 35. But they haven't hit on all their grants either, because they're having some of the same issues. It's a hard time for fundraising right now.
Except for funds like ARPA.
Yes.
So that's, you know, I'm not even on that committee. I'm just saying, like, those are the things that were kind of put in place for situations like this, I think. I mean, undefinable situations. So so in order, you're gonna be going CPC first and then seeing what they say, or you in parallel, or how's that gonna work?
I mean, this is just formulating, coming to terms with this, right?
I know.
But what we finally decided is we tried to round out the 10,000. We'd apply for 25,000 in CPC money, and then we'd apply for ARPA funds, and then we wouldn't take the CPC money if the ARPA funds came through. We'd maybe make, I don't know, we don't know what the ARPA application even looks like. It seems like a long shot to me. David has a,
So, we have to have the money by sometime in June, do we know when that is? And the reason why I'm asking is cause we have the town meeting on June 7th.
So CPC funds would have to be approved at town meeting.
yeah, well, but they would have been raised, so to speak, right? I mean, that would close the gap. If it doesn't pass, then it's a big problem. Right. Does that make sense?
No,
I
they
mean,
would be raised, right, from
yeah,
normal, the way that,
Habitat for Humanity
Yeah,
goes out and it
understood.
gets commercial loans through, you know, I mean, they're not standard commercial loans, they're very favorable interest, but they borrow the money to build these houses, right? So, if it passed at town meeting, we would be able to, you know, pay them back for that.
Yep.
It's more a matter of trying to raise the funds from scratch after the person has moved in.
yeah, understood.
And I'm not sure it'll be June 1st, it'll be sometime the month of June whenever they finish the house.
If we could nail that down, cause if it's June 1st or before June 7th, then we have to think about how to position the town so that it can be responsive to your request.
Well, what she's just said though is that, you know, we are currently, as we sit here, raising money for the CPC, right? Just as every day goes by, that money is being raised. So if it were approved by the committee and then, you know, went to town meeting, I mean, it would still be a hope that it was gonna get approved at town meeting, but if it did get approved, whether that was 2 weeks after or not, you'd then be able to pay back, correct?
Right,
Right, so I, you know,
right.
I don't know if the date really matters, to be honest.
I mean,
Yeah.
I suspect I'm gonna get the same. You know, maybe like June 15th would be a better set as a move-in date, just to get us past the town meeting. I think it's likely to be that anyway, because
Right.
everything's running late with supplies
It
and
is,
things for
yeah.
any other kind of building. Anyway, I know it's a problem we have to solve, but if you can help us with that.
Yeah, okay.
And then Alice, ARPA, so we're meeting this week, so hopefully have an application ready to go and so forth. But even if it was one of those things where you had to do CPC and get that to fail before you came to ARPA, ARPA's ongoing till we're out of money. Until, was it the end of 2026? Something like that. So as long as we have money, there's money available to apply, and we don't know who's going to put in for what, but I don't think the committee's likely to spend or recommend to the select board to suspend everything on day one.
Well, it's Habitat for Humanity that's put this in, it isn't. But I don't see a problem with them applying for more from CPC and that, I mean, the Vietnam committee, they put in for 50,000 and we approved it, and then they raised it, and we just didn't, in CPC.
Yep.
You know, we just put it back in the pot, right? So I think we could do that.
No, I think, I guess what I'm trying to say is, you know, let's say CPC says, yeah, this is fantastic, we get to town meeting floor and it gets stomped down.
Oh, we could apply.
Then the day after you say, can you guys re-look at that ARPA application, cause
I
we have a
see.
change of condition here, so it may not have been as favorable initially, but not having other funds available and not being able to raise additional could, you know.
Okay, so you don't, I see, you're saying, so they're not gonna give it all away in one lump, it's.
No,
It'll be
because we have
ongoing.
1.4 million plus.
Yeah.
So we're gonna, my guess is, I haven't talked to the other four members at the same time,
That's good to know. I think we'll apply anyway, but see what happens. Okay.
why not? Worst
Okay.
case scenario, we put it in the book, Alice, and we see you on June 8th.
Okay. All right.
And what's the and then we call a quick select board meeting? What's the process? I can't remember, like.
So the ARPA committee will give you guys, essentially our goal I think is to give you like a shopping list,
Yep.
right? And say, okay, we've done this process, we've collected all these applications, we've reviewed the applications, here's our analysis of each of the applications on the matrix and so forth, here's how we rank them, this is what, as a committee, we recommend to the full select board to vote and approve
Yep.
for funding. And then we would vote and approve, we would tell David, the probably have to sign, you know, come up with some kind of contract to whoever's getting the money. And then David works it out probably with the finance department and they issue a check or however we're gonna do it, whether it's paid direct or paid to the applicant.
But that could be done for a single issue at any time. as
Yeah.
well, right.
I would imagine.
Can do it now.
Right.
Yeah.
It may be that CPC will say, no, we're not gonna sponsor 20 too, maybe they'll say, we'll sponsor 10 or something. I don't know, it's, we're still working.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thanks
Thank you.
guys.
Thanks a lot. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Oh,
We
there's
still
still
need to
the
do
committee formation.
Yeah,
Oh, we have committee formation on here?
for the
EDC's joint meeting with planning board last week to do
For
a
the
committee.
farm
Or-
accessory
Oh,
bylaw.
yes, sorry, I meant to put that on here. So, what we decided is we needed like a steering committee to get this thing really off the ground. And so we put a member from planning board, the CDC,
No. EDC,
EDC, sorry.
it's okay.
So a member from the select board
Agricultural,
and the agricultural commission,
a member of community.
and then a member at large from the community.
What do we
So you'd have a
just got to?
five,
Yes,
a
fine.
5-person committee, and what were we gonna call it? Gosh, I forgot my notes. It's called the, a study, it wasn't a study committee, what do we call it?
It's not in Katie's
Advisory
notes.
committee,
Ad hoc.
an ad hoc
Yeah,
advisory committee on the agricultural use, to develop an agricultural use bylaw. Agricultural accessory use bylaw.
There we go.
Okay.
So if you guys would agree to establish the ad hoc committee, then we would publish its meetings just like any other committee.
Yeah.
They would meet and they would report back. I don't think it has to be time limited.
No, it's just, it was meant to just come up with some guidance to come back to the EDC and the planning board, so we can get a game plan going, because trying to get our two boards together to get through this, to just put the pieces together is painful, you know, it's just, it's a lot of work, so if we, and also we want the farm, the agricultural commission, we want somebody from them, we want, you know, like, there's other pieces to the pie that we want to tap into for their 2 cents. So if we put this small group together and get everyone's 2 cents to come up with a formula that should work for Hubbardston and our farms, then they can report their guidance back to the EDC and the planning board.
Hopefully, maybe 90 days or something, not a long time.
Just something. Let's roll.
Anyway, if you make the committee, and then we took a vote to make Christopher our delegate, cause he's the one that's been studying it.
And I offered to do it from the select board, unless one of you really wants to do it, but I would like to do it, but again, it's all, unless somebody wants to
It's fine with me.
That's fabulous.
argue with me
And
about
just so you can't take it back, I'd recommend we set up the ad hoc committee tonight.
But
Uh,
Katie, are you gonna represent EDC or
No, I'd
select
represent
board?
the select board.
Okay, and then who was gonna represent EDC?
Whitney was gonna represent.
And Whitney's, okay, is the chair,
EDC,
okay.
How many people are on EDC?
Just one.
No, how many people are on the EDC committee?
We'd have to do a secondary open meeting,
Okay.
yes, we already
'Cause
discussed
then you're gonna have
that.
a
Yeah, cause
quorum
we're
of
gonna end up having a
ED.
quorum for EDC.
Right, we,
Because 3 of us are on the EDC already, but that's okay, we'll make sure we always do that, so.
I'd like to make a motion that we establish an ad hoc advisory committee to develop the accessory use bylaw and appoint have a 5-member committee, which includes 1 select board representative, 1 planning board, 1 EDC, 1 agricultural commission, and 1 member of the community at large.
Second the motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Okay, unanimous?
And we're gonna appoint
You wanna do
Katie since
appointments?
she's volunteering.
why we're here?
I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Katie Young as the select board, member to the ad hoc advisory committee to develop accessory use bylaw and defer to the chairs of the other respective committees for their appointments.
Second the motion.
Not
Thank you,
deba-
Katie.
that's not debatable, no, I'm just kidding, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
And then do
Okay.
we need David to post that there's a member of the community spot?
You can take my recommendation. do I need to, send a letter or something? What do you want from the planning board?
I think if you just let David know.
Okay, send you an email,
Okay.
or,
For a member at large recommendation?
no,
A member from the planning
the
board.
member from the planning
Oh,
board.
Chris.
And are you going to contact, the only committee that wasn't sitting there that has no clue about any of this is the agricultural committee. So they kinda need to be notified that they need to pony somebody up.
Yep, so I was emailing the agricultural commission, committee and
Commission, it's actually commission.
Commission, yeah.
Yes, I apologize.
so I know who to talk to.
Okay, alright, yeah.
Sounds good.
Alright, sounds good, thank you.
Again,
Alright, have a good
long
night.
time tonight, thanks.
Yeah, great.
Thank you, Alice.
Alright, so our next item is a report from MMA attendees.
So as you may have seen from the 4,000 emails that MMA has sent out, that they have changed their venue to be online and free to all MMA members. I was able to attend the opening session on Friday, and that was it, cause when you stay home, you don't have childcare coverage
Yep.
for some reason. But anyway, they had a really nice opening session. They had a very insightful speaker. I thought for the most part, he was very skeptical for like the first 20 minutes, and then he got into his thing a little bit more, and it was, I think, very helpful and something that probably Ryan could benefit from, and other department heads as well, just of different ways to kind of have a little bit of groupthink and troubleshoot and problem solve and so forth. And David submitted a lovely set of notes of all the different sessions. I think the highlights were Lieutenant Governor said 2.7% for UGA increase over this year, so unrestricted governmental aid for FY23. Looks like right now the recommendation on the table is Chapter 90 would stay the level funded to what it was this past year.
Which was 200 or 300 million?
200 million bond bill.
And they also have sessions going forever, cause they couldn't, I don't even understand their formatting. But over the next several weeks and into February, they have 1 or 2 sessions every week of random topics. So if you go onto the MMA website, remember, because it's free to all MMA members, includes the entire boards, if there's anything that interests anyone, they can just sign up for it.
Okay, great.
So, David, did you happen to click, I meant to do it earlier and I didn't get a chance, did you get a chance to click on the fiscal forecast link relative to ARPA from Division Local Services that Sean Cronin had listed at the end of the fiscal planning one forecast?
I did, and I'm trying to dredge up among all the links that I clicked today what that was about.
You don't remember them stating more specifically though what they're gonna release for additional ARPA funds?
No,
Okay.
that's still a mystery to us. We don't know how they're gonna be using it. They did talk about the infrastructure bill, and that it's gonna be a series of competitive grants. We're not gonna see direct distributions of money to cities and towns. So whatever we have in the way of capital coming up in the next couple of years having to do with infrastructure, we need to get that up to federal standards and then be able to, in order to apply for competitive funding.
So we need to pony up for like engineering design sort of stuff to be able to
Yeah.
get them to a point where we can have the ability to have something constructed and get the money for it.
Yeah.
Did they happen to give any indication of what their criteria is gonna be for their competitive grants?
They're interested in anything having to do with roads, bridges, culverts. They're interested in broadband. They've already signaled that a lot of the infrastructure money is gonna go to replacing the 2 bridges over the Cape Cod Canal.
Saw that.
That's just gonna be a priority that I think we have to live with, but
I think just to restate that question, more on the lines of almost like what boxes we have to check to get to a point to be able to join the competitive
to be in the game.
to be in the game.
See, I just worry sometimes with those things that, when you're talking about the competitive grants, especially where you have to pony up the engineering and design first, that all the money's gonna go to the large cities that have, you know, in-house engineering and the ability to come up with the materials, even the grant writing.
Yep.
For those things, and I don't know, it would be interesting to see how small towns fare.
Yeah, so I think we need to talk about small towns being in rural areas that are underserved by, you name it, transportation, communication, distribution of money, all of that has to be part of our narrative.
Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud here, you know, what we need next, right? 68 South is done, 68, so 60, the major sort of trunk roads are coming, the town center project's on its way. We've gotten a couple of bridges, Route 62, Evergreen, we've got a few others going, we've got some culverts going, so it's almost like we need to start making a list now of like what is the priorities so that we can know whether we have to start thinking about, you know, at June town meeting saying, hey, we don't really know 100% what this is for yet, but we need $100,000 because we know we're gonna have to do something pretty soon, you know, just to be in the game, like we said. So that might be something we should formulate.
Yeah, I would talk to our legislative delegation first, as look, they probably have some insights that we haven't heard yet.
Okay, that'd be great.
And it's free to talk to them.
Yeah, right. Okay.
But what I always worry about the design and engineering piece, especially with, you know, any of the tip projects, you get it on the tip with your engineering design, right? It's on there for 3 years, then they're like, you need to update your engineering design study. So you're just asking for money to study, and you never actually get to do the project. By the time you do the project, it already cost you the amount of the project if you just didn't go through the funding process. So I think it's a small town problem. Like, it's not, we're not unique with that issue.
And we've been pretty lucky, to be honest, you know, last, 5 or 10 years with that, it really hasn't happened to us, so, you know, not to say that it won't, but. Okay, anything else from MMA?
There was a session today on the fiscal outlook that was run by the Department of, the Division of Local Services. And the Massachusetts budget is doing better than expected. The forecast for the future, although there are lots of things that are uncertain, looks pretty good. 2.7% increase in tax revenue is expected in FY23. From December 20 to December 21, there's been a 19% increase in revenue coming in.
Did they talk about, like, if this artificially inflated real estate market implodes again?
No, they didn't.
Okay. Cause that's, so much of it's buoyed up by valuations and all that, so I didn't know if somebody just sort of blurted that out and said, hey, so what happens when that happens?
Yeah.
But
I think based upon our experience in 2008, New England fared a lot better than the rest of the country, and I think part of that is because the banks don't engage in this kind of wild speculative exercises that, say, the Southeast or Southwest.
I hear you there. I'm not necessarily talking about that. I'm more talking about when valuations all go so far down and then, you know, local revenues decrease. Not instantaneously necessarily, because valuations aren't done on a you know, you have 3 and 5 year cycles and all that, but eventually that sort of comes around where there's just a lot less revenue coming in than there was.
But
all at once.
But our amount of real estate tax should stay the same, because it's still gonna go up 2.5%, even if your valuation drops. The property tax itself gets divvied up. So like if my house stays proportionately in position to Katie's house, we're gonna have the same proportional tax amount that we're gonna be paying.
You are.
We can divvy up the whole thing. It's gonna be more of a problem. Well, actually, never mind. That's as far as I can go.
Yep.
Yeah, but that doesn't do you any good if people just abandon their house, which, you know, occurred back in 2008.
But if it's less
Sure.
expensive, it's easier to buy. Yeah.
Yeah. Alright. Alright, anything else from MMA? Anybody? That's all that was on.
No, just keep an eye on the emails, and if anyone has any free time, and David, I don't know if you were able to pop a message to other boards and committees, but it might be worthwhile to let them know that all of those sessions are free, and I think they record all of them.
Yes.
So that first, if anyone has an opportunity, I would strongly recommend watching that opening session that they did on Friday morning. It was very, bear with the guy for like the first 20 minutes, but he was very good after you got through the first 20 minutes.
Okay.
I thought.
Was the first 20 minutes included the Red Bull exercise, right?
It did. It did.
Yeah,
It
I
took
actually
me about
thought
half.
I actually thought that was pretty good.
I wasn't buying in till we were halfway through,
Yeah.
like the Red Bull piece. But yes, you gotta give it 20 minutes.
Alright, we got it.
It's good.
Just so that, that we're not leaving people in the dark here, there was a contest to get people from London to Berlin, and they had no resources except for cans of Red Bull that they would barter for food, transportation, and shelter. It was a bit of an adventure.
Alright, well, moving on. So next item is old business. We've got the Route 68 project, which is an update on the project, and then as discussed early in the meeting or before the sign, we have a signed certificate of donation, or a certificate of donation that we need to sign. I guess so we have it on here. I'd asked to have this item to put on all agendas, because we need to make sure we don't miss our dates like we had talked about recently. Any update from you?
Yeah, so on Friday I reached out to Mr. Jason Dono
Yep.
and just said, can you give me a status
So
report?
just refreshing. So this is the company
He's
that we're going to be doing the appraisals.
appraiser.
Yep.
That's right. So he says, he's got the preliminary work done, and he'll be going out to photograph the properties shortly.
Okay.
I made sure that he and Lori Aho from TEC
Yep.
are communicating.
All right, good.
So it seems like things are on track.
And Lori knows. I mean, she cares about our deadline and all that.
Oh, yeah.
They don't want to be. They're worried. They don't want to be party to anything that delays this. So I'm really happy they're on our team, meaning from TEC. So, all right. So what do we have for a certificate of donation?
Here we go.
So Tony just let me know that she's having issues with the internet, and it's hit and miss whether she can hear us or not.
Okay.
So, can you hear me now?
You're on mute,
Oh,
Tony.
she's on mute.
They said those are the most popular words.
I can't, you keep going in and out. I can't really fully get a full sentence from you guys.
All right. We don't save anything
Yeah, she's.
worth
He's
it.
messing with you. He says we don't say anything important, so don't worry about it. It's awesome. I'm glad you're taking notes today. This is gonna be fun.
Yes.
We are videoing this though, so at least you have the video to watch afterwards. The microphone should be picking us up a lot better than the computer is.
Yeah, Brittany is videoing it, so I should be able to hear it that way.
That was a gift.
All right. So we don't need any authorizations. This is me just signing this, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So this is just a certificate of donation. Were we able to the most recent information session that we did? Do we have a video of that we can post?
Yes,
Okay.
we can.
All right. Can we do that?
Yep.
We'll put it right up on the town website so that people can take a look.
Who is the donation from?
This
Which
is
property?
from their address is. I saw the name, but I don't. It does parcel numbers and stuff, so
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I don't think that's gonna help you.
No, probably
Should
not.
rein
But
it.
it's a resident. It's not a business.
Correct.
Okay. David, did they just mail that in, or did they bring that at the information session?
Tony, I think we received this by mail, right?
It's folded, so.
Yeah. It
Yes,
is.
that one's by mail.
Yep. Donation. Yep.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So that's sure. So we have next is the town administrator report, David.
Okay, we've covered a lot of the report already, but we have an update from the Vietnam Memorial group. They are going to get their monument delivered next week. So we'll have it ready for
Great.
the Memorial Day ceremony.
I see that out too.
Yep.
Trying to track down where we are with respect to the marijuana payments that are due to the town, and so I've been working with council to come up with a strategy to get some money flowing.
Okay.
So we should be seeing something like that happens shortly.
Alright, you wanna let us know when you find out?
Yep. The Hub Center School elevator project is complete.
Okay.
Trying to track down Rutland to find out where we are with the cell tower. The CPA church exterior rehabilitation is go.
What's
There's
the
revenues through December and
What's the
your
schedule on that, do you know? Do we know the
What is
schedule
it?
on the church?
Spring, to my
So,
knowledge.
so this was, I know we wanted to push it through to be able to purchase
Secure.
materials and secure
Yeah.
all that stuff,
Yeah.
so, then they just start when the weather allows it to.
Well, they had to fix a couple things
Yeah.
Okay,
prior, that was part of the deal.
From the engineers.
Yeah, the engineer
Yeah.
study, they had to fix a couple things, but they thought that would go through rather quickly, and then hopefully, they were thinking spring, to my knowledge, that it was gonna get started.
so I was away when we first got the, structural evaluation.
Mhm.
Did they have members here? Did
In
the
the
church
meeting?
have?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Mary was up on the
Zoom
Okay.
and
somebody who was in the stands,
I'm trying to remember.
Susan was here,
Yes.
and,
yes.
Sanda, I wanna
Sandra,
say.
that's, yeah.
Okay, so no issues though, and no one,
No, we just made it very clear that had to be done first, before the actual, that was part of the deal, that structural stuff had to be dealt with
okay.
and assessed.
I just have to say it, just 'cause I have to, but I read the report, it's fine, and the people who did it are registered professional engineers and all that, but there were a few things, that, at the end of it with some recommendations that were made.
Yeah.
That are pretty substantial, that
I-
basically said, in the next few years, or however it was worded, it
Yeah,
was
it was
like,
awkward.
it was kinda too cute, yeah. Which wasn't like, you need to do this before you get the money for this project, but it
yeah.
was expensive work that's probably not gonna get done in the next couple of years.
Well, Mary is very hopeful, she's working with, another church locally that does a lot of restoration stuff
Okay.
and fixing things,
Alright,
she was
I shouldn't say
talking
that,
about.
I guess, it just looked like it
Yeah,
was some
she was-
substantial
she was-
fixes.
She was, yeah, I know, that's what I said, I'm like, you're talking about sills and stuff like that, that's not like easy, like I've done that, you have no idea, like it's not easy. I wanna pull your hair out by the end of the day, but yeah, no, she was very hopeful that A, they had the funds, and B, they had the manpower going through the other church with help, so, yeah.
Okay. Alright, I just hadn't had a chance to comment on that yet, no. Anything else?
So your revenues and expenditures through December look like they're coming in exactly where they should be. So that's good. The FY 21 audit is complete, except for the management letter. We're waiting for that, but we don't expect to see any issues. And I've been working a lot on the FY 23 budget. Still missing the schools, and I'm missing the dispatch. Other than that, everybody's got their budgets in.
Okay, and you've put 6% in, 4%, 6% for the schools for now?
4%
4%,
right now.
okay.
I did receive a preliminary budget that shows a 5.9% increase, but that's not the assessment to the towns, that's the total budget, supported by grants and revolving funds and so forth.
So the total school budget increased 5.9%?
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, that could be 16 to us, at 2, we
Yeah.
just have
Yeah.
no idea based on how it's gonna be.
Yeah,
Alright,
Have they done any joint meetings, David?
no,
Are they working on doing any joint meetings, the school, or is that something we can stimulate from our end to get the other towns and the super?
I think now that the preliminary budget has been put together, I think that now is the time to get the other schools, towns involved.
Okay.
Ryan spearheaded that effort last time, so
Yeah.
I think it's up to Hubbardston to do that again.
Okay, so you'd be able to work on that?
Yep.
Okay. And then have we got anything from Money Tech yet?
Oh yeah, they sent their budget in pretty early, and it shows about a $25,000 decrease based upon enrollment.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
Yeah, it was like 400 and, it was under 500,000.
Yeah.
They were looking for.
Alright, thanks for the report, we
Can I
have
ask
no,
a couple more questions, Dan?
for the town administrator
Yeah,
report?
please.
Of course.
David, on the audit, so you're talking about the management letter, at one point, I think you had mentioned that they usually do a meeting with us.
Yes,
Do we have an idea of when that will be?
I need to schedule that,
Okay, but they'll have the management letter out to us first.
yes.
Okay, excellent. I don't remember where we stand on this, when the last, I actually don't remember an update, which you probably did give. The folks that were in that had the issue with the kennel and the property and the fence,
Mr. Dakota,
yes. Do we have an
yes.
update on where that stands? Were we able to do a joint meeting with relevant parties or make progress on that?
I needed to follow up on that because I don't think it ever happened.
Okay,
We did convene a meeting of all the active parties. And I thought that we had agreed that we would be sending the Board of Health, the building inspector, and the police out to 55 Old Boston Road.
okay.
And I don't think that ever came together.
Okay, and then, following up on an email I think Katie had sent a number of weeks ago relative to inspectional services for, was it a woman whose
Mary.
property needed to have an inspection, was that ever taken care of?
I don't think so.
Okay, can we follow up with the building commissioner, or even the mayor, to CC on that one?
Yeah.
Just to make sure that, they didn't forget our resident. Not that that could ever happen. And then, just one more general question, so, Dan, the meeting you weren't here was another 61A property. So we've had two of these come up now since I've been on the board. Do we have a plan in town, or have we ever had like Concom and open space take a look at, here's the 61A properties we currently have in town, and these are the ones, these are the ones we could care less about because they're out the backside of this property, they're over here, whatever. These are the ones we care about, and starting to actually look at a strategic plan so that every single time a 61A property comes up, we don't have the same conversation.
We have, it becomes a hot item and then it goes away, so I don't remember the last time.
You
Okay.
do have an open space plan. It's posted on your website.
I can check
Okay.
that.
It doesn't have the fine-grained detail that you're talking about, but it has general priorities for the town.
Okay, well, I'm just wondering, if it's
Probably-
something, we're not that huge of a town, but I imagine we do have quite a few 61A properties. But being able to have Concom and open space and the relevant committees take a look and say, okay, ahead of time, these there's 36 properties on this list, or 100, whatever.
Yep.
These ones we would never have an interest in because they're not contiguous to anything, they're, a half an acre lot or whatever.
Yep.
And then be able to come up with a plan, so at least we can start thinking, and next time someone asks, we can say, you're right, we did, this was a top priority, and we've been saving money in CPC for this for 3 years, just so when it came up, we were ready. I have lofty dreams, David, lofty dreams. That was my last question, thanks, Dan.
Okay, thanks. Next item is policies review. We don't have any of those. And then matters not reasonably anticipated.
I have a question.
I don't have any. Anyone else have any?
I have a question actually for Heather and Chris both, pertaining to the ARPA. 'Cause there's confusion out there, and I mentioned this to David when at our last meeting. There was a rumor at one point going around, because I was approached by the people who had already applied, the diner.
Yep.
they basically had given up on it because they said, well, the money's going back. I said, what are you talking about, the money going back? Well, that's what we were told. I said, no, we had money in the bank already, et cetera. And then they said, well, is the deadline over? Cause now, they've already applied, so now they're hearing about the applications going out again. Do they have to reapply?
So they'll get, what we're hoping to do, Jeff, is we're hoping to have the RFP, which we saw last meeting, and an application that corresponds to that David started. I twiddled with a little bit from Fitchburg with some pieces. I'll send it to David tomorrow so he can make it look prettier. And then we'll get it to the ARPA committee and make sure they're all on board, make any changes. And hopefully we'll post everything by either the end of the week or next week. And then what the hope is that those 6 or 7 applicants who already put something in, we'll have David send the application to, and they just complete it. It's not a.
So they will be reached out to.
Yes, and
because
they
these
have
people
to.
felt like it was all, you know.
No, it's just because I think we started so late. So other towns have already done like a whole first round, and or not towns, I'm sorry, cities. The towns were pretty much on par with.
Yeah.
But like Fitchburg and stuff, they already did one round, and I imagine some of the cities are probably going, oh crap, because of the rule changes. They probably are like, oh man, we should have waited, because that could have changed the whole game.
No, I appreciate that, and I think it'll really calm them down a little bit because they happen to be struggling right now, and they thought that everything was just gone anyway at this point. And I told them, I said, we've got over $700,000 already in the bank.
Is it, what is that number? Is it, what's that number that we
1.4.
already have?
1.4 was the total.
I thought 746 or something we already
Yeah,
have in the
so
bank.
we got the first allotment of
7 something, wasn't it? Yeah.
$721,710.50.
Available.
That's what we
So
have
I
in the
assured
bank
them the
right
money
now.
had, and I said, whoever told her that didn't know what they were talking
And
about.
when do we get the remainder?
We get the remainder in the summer.
Of the first 1.4 million, Chris. If we get more money from the state, which is
Right.
anticipated, we don't know when that's coming.
What's, you said 12 months, he said summer, what's?
Sorry, it's right on the sheet. He read straight from the sheet I'm reading
Oh,
from
is
too.
it?
Yeah.
So, 50% non-entitled, such as receive 50% after submitting a request form. First equaled 721, the number he just said. It looks like that was in May of 21, so 12 months after that, the remaining 50% installment. So next May, June, July, somewhere in that range.
Thank you.
And while we're on the subject, Lombard Road has come up as, an option for some of this funding. How do projects like that need to be paid out? I mean, do we pay 100% up front? Do we pay 50% and then 50%? Do we pay at the
Well, we
beginning of the
can't-
project? Does it vary? Can we negotiate that?
We can only pay out for services and goods that we've received. We can't prepay. So it would be construction documents would include a schedule of payment. The contractor would start the project and start submitting invoices for labor and materials.
Okay.
And we would be paying incrementally out of a fund that we would have established under the grant money.
It's kind of, I think any project that's gonna be that big or gonna be town related, it's gonna follow the normal course of what we would normally have to do if it was coming out of any other funds for the town.
Similar to this roofing project,
Yeah.
you know?
So you have to do all the procurement and everything else, and what we're gonna have to keep in mind.
But this is gonna be slightly different, right, though, because we're doing this all out of pocket, from what I understand, we're not.
But we have the money.
Oh yeah, we absolutely have the money, I just wanna know the expectations of this so-called private contract that we're setting up,
It's not gonna be any different than if we normally did a road project. The only different, as far as the contractor goes, they're not gonna see any difference. You're thinking, I think, more so that usually when you do a road contract, sometimes we do a ban, or we borrow money up front, and then we're able to pay it, pay it as we go. But as far as the contractor goes, they don't care, because we're still giving them a check. Whether it's money that, is already hanging out in the bank account, or whether we have to do a short-term borrowing to get the money to pay
Right.
them, it doesn't matter. I don't think it would be wise for us, to borrow money, especially for outside grants that we do for ARPA funds, but I don't think we need to do those anyway,
Yeah, you
because
have
we
Well,
have
yeah,
the
we wanna
funds.
try to avoid that for
You
sure.
have that option of doing a grant anticipatory note too, so
Okay.
You can spend above the $700,000 in anticipation of getting another $700,000.
Write ourselves our own IOU.
Yeah, really, that's pretty cool.
I think where it's gonna get wonky is if we do funds outside of town, so like to the business or to some other project.
I know.
I think it's gonna, like when looking through Fitchburg's documents, they seem to allude to a contract. So maybe touching base with them and see what they're using, but I think it's gonna have to do something similar, hopefully not as complex as what we did with the church, but something,
Mm.
right, where there's some kind of language in play. I know I played with the, one of the thing in Fitchburg's contract, or Fitchburg's application, the last page had things, you know, I don't have any outstanding taxes due, you know, I own this property, you know, I don't have, they ask those
Yeah.
questions so you know that there's some,
Right.
something there, so you're not just giving it to a business that's gonna fold tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think that's gonna be the question is how do you, okay, conceptually, right? Thank you for your application, great project, ARPA thinks it's the most important thing going.
We care about you.
We send it to the select board says, this is the most important business in town, we have to have this is so important, let's approve it. Okay, David, how do we give them money? So,
And what you said, what conditions need to be on that.
so, that's gonna be the fun part. I think the getting applications to people and getting them back, there'll be some subjectivity, cause you know, all of these things are, you know,
Yeah.
what's more important than something else in 5 people's different opinions.
Yep.
Before they come to 5 more different people's opinions. But I think then it's gonna be, you know, town department, no problem. We
And-
know how to spend our money.
Well,
We
and the
can do
first
that.
few are gonna be tricky too, cause they're new, right? I mean, eventually, there's not a million scenarios out there,
No.
right? There's a few scenarios, but the first few are gonna be, you know, it's gonna make everybody have to come up with the way they feel about it.
Well, it's also gonna be interesting because it's not, especially for town projects, I mean, outside businesses, it's gonna be fine. If you ask for 20 and you get 20, that's fine. For a town project, like, let's say Lombard Road, right? Say the application comes in from Travis and David and it's $622,000, right? Then they go out to bid for the project. And the project is $675,000. So ARPA we either have to do one of two things. We either have to grant it for a range amount, you know, no more than this amount we'll give you for this project, or we have to say, okay, you can come back if it comes up higher, but regardless, we have to be mindful of the amount we're giving out or approving, because we have to have enough in the bank at the end of the day.
Or you say, this
When they
is
come
all
back.
we're giving and any additional amounts coming out of chapter 90. Something like
true.
that,
Yeah.
right?
But
So,
that's gonna be the interesting part with any
No, it
projects
is.
that require
It is.
procurement, like, we wanna do a study for the Slade building, let's say that gets approved, you know. Ryan's estimates were, you know, somewhere between like 20-50,000, give or take. You go with one number, you go out to bid, the number's completely higher.
you can always throw out the bids too.
You can,
I mean, you're right, it just comes up with a number of,
it's gonna be a learning experience,
Did
we're
you
gonna
get
get
it?
really good.
You were gonna get an update from Travis, did you
Not
get
yet.
that? No?
anything else, anything else?
Move to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Okay, not debatable, it is 7:50, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So we